Hey Balaji, welcome back, and everyone too. This is the Heartful Leader series that you're watching, Pearl webinar, and this is part 2 of the webinar Influence, using influence versus control initiative. And Balaji here, who is the technology executive from USA. In part 1, he talked about principles of influencing others, some common traits of a leader, and also about the importance of self-awareness for a heartful leader through his personal stories. Now, today we're going to take a look at examples of someone trying to influence us by authority versus leading by example or inspiration. So good to have you with us, Balaji, again. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Lakshmi, for having me back. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. So let's get started. Now, please tell us, what are the key differences between authoritative leadership and leadership through inspiration? It would be great if you can, give us some real world examples.
Certainly do. Thank you for that question. The question took me back to early 2000s. One of my well-respected managers, he recommended a book for me. It was named Good to Great by Jim Collins. The author of the book is, his name is Jim Collins. He was a professor of Stanford Business School at the time. He wanted to answer one important question. What makes a great company great? And also go from a good performance to a great performance company. So he came up with a set of criteria with his research team. He said, let's go look at all the publicly traded companies over the last 40 years. And they should have produced at least 3 times the result of S&P 500 and at least 15-year period. They should have outperformed the market as well as their competitors. And when they started to look at these companies, about 1,400 of them or so, and they were able to shortlist it with these criteria to about 11 of them. And then they get on to the job of, what made them different or great? How did they become an ordinary company to an extraordinary company? And he specifically told the team, hey, look, don't come back and tell me it is the CEO, because I'm looking for a greater insight about what really made these companies great. So the team looked at it for several months, and then they came back to Jim and said, Jim, you have to look at the leaders of these companies. Each one of the leaders of these 11 companies were vastly different from their competitors. They were not flamboyant as opposed to they were very humble. Humility is one of the key traits. And another one which they listed as something called selfless, quote unquote, which is very uncommon in a public for commercial companies. What is selfless here? Selfless means, the kind of pay they got compared to the rest of them, or how they were completely dedicated to the performance and the purpose of the company right from the start. When you look at how long they managed the company and their history with the company, you can see selfless actions from them, how he inspired everybody. They inspired everybody in the company through their selfless actions. So when Jim digested all of that and he started telling the story across the country through various seminars and workshops, and he would ask the participants, have you guys come across a person like that? They would say, yes, absolutely. They're community people, teachers, doctors, and even some people have quoted, janitors who take care of the facilities. And these people are all around us. They are selfless leaders who make this country great and make the world great. And that is what we strive to be if we want to influence people around us, right? We want to be humble and selfless in our dedication to the purpose. Actually, related to that, there is also another book I wanted to share with you. This is a book written by Daniel Pink about the surprising truth about what motivates us. That's the book title. And in that, he's talking about, how, there is a limit to how much money motivates us, meaning the money stops to motivate performance once it crosses being rudimentary cognitive skills. Meaning, people get motivated by three things in that book he talks about. Like, one is autonomy, being able to perform your actions autonomously, self-directed manner. Mastery of skills, ability to master at what you what you want to do, or get better at things that matter to you. And then finally, purpose, knowing or doing something which is greater than yourself, and knowing what we are doing something for, right? So he talks about these three key motivations, three key drivers for our motivations. And once you take money off the table as a motivator, in fact, he gives examples of how money can be detrimental to our motivation in some cases. I always been very inspired by some of the stories I grew up hearing, about Mahatma Gandhi, for instance. This whole non-violence movement to achieve freedom. He was a brilliant communicator, and he galvanized the entire country when there was no easy way to reach everybody in the country, right? The one example, it is there in the movie Gandhi as well. You can see that, the salt satyagraha, which he did. He was like, he said, you know what? I'm going to go make my own salt in the nearby town. And he starts walking about 30 miles or something like that. And he starts walking. That's it. He does it himself. He just sets example of what to do. And people keeps following him. There is a big crowd gathers behind him, trying to make the salt. And then, in fact, they show, the British generals, they're all like talking in a room. Hey, what do we do with this salt satyagraha? And they all keep laughing about how, some Gandhi making salt in some rural India. I mean, they were like laughing how that is going to bring down the British Empire. And then 30, 60, 90 days later, the entire country stops buying salt. And that starts to affect the British pocketbooks, because salt tax was a big thing in those days. And they didn't realize it's a big deal. And they had to arrest Gandhi after that. So now a small thing, can change everything, and how Gandhi exemplified the simplicity, the humility, and a purpose, which is communicating a purpose, which is so big, even in those days when we didn't have all the communication technology we have today. And it's amazing. And, even in this country, we know the story of Martin Luther King and his I Have a Dream speech. I don't know whether I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yes.
Yes. So in how he tries to look beyond our everyday bitter division among people, right? The leaders do rise everybody up from the divisions. There is so much, division among people and fight for nothing. And leaders are able to rise everybody else with their vision for the future and aspire for something greater than themselves. And when you do that, the influence automatically happens. Right? And that is the most important thing. A purpose, a selfless dedication to that cause, and humility can really change what we are trying to communicate to others. And I'll tell you another example as well. I mean, about 5 years ago or so, I happened to visit Heartfulness Main Center in Hyderabad in Kanha. And I was with Daji, who is our guide for Heartfulness. And there was one lady who walked into the room with her mother, And she said, look, I know I really want to stay in the ashram for 10 days. My mother, there's nobody to take care of her. So she's with me. She's going to stay with me for the next 10 days. But, she doesn't follow our meditation. She has her own guru. So is it okay if she stays here and also does her own meditation? And for that, Daji said, of course, please let her follow her own guru. Just accept us as your servant, and I was like so touched by his perspective, and we are all here thinking always divisions and how we are different from others, but great leaders look at things which unites us, not divides us, and always they keep the purpose in mind. We are here to serve humanity, not benefit from that, right? And that's
Absolutely.
what makes a great leader great, and that's what touches me every day. Why I try. I aspire to be one of these leaders one day.
Awesome, Balaji. I like that. It's true. True leaders really have this attitude of service, and very lovely story that was.
Thank you.
Coming back to this authoritative leadership, there's certainly an element of control and curtailment of freedom felt, right? Like, how does that kind of have an impact on the team and the outcome?
So, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking if there is a leader who is authoritative in nature, what happens in those kind of scenarios?
Correct.
What happens to the outcome?
For example, if you the thing about the story you shared about the British rule in India,
yeah.
and Gandhi's the Salt March, which was considered to be a very small incident, and they thought perhaps this is not going to have any effect at all, right? Yeah. To start with, and the British was there in the name of saying that yes, they're going to take the country forward, but then of course there was some element of control to the people, right? So I was just trying to, you talked a lot about leadership, which inspires us and take things forward. So what about the authoritative leadership? How is that perceived?
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing about authoritative leadership. It certainly produces result. It is certainly produces result, but in the short term, you see, it is in the short term you will get what you want, but over a period of long term, it is not transformative. It is going to, we have seen this over and over and over again in our history. If you look at human history, the authoritative leaders make a lot of progress, but guess what? Slowly, it fails to inspire the humanity. It fails to carry on the light to the next generation, to the next generation, to the next generation. It always, history judges them very, very harshly. It's just the way it has been. No matter what great things they did, it doesn't matter. The authoritative leaders may have produced a short-term result, but in the long term, it just doesn't inspire the humanity to take that message forward. So when we are in the transformation business, when we are in the long term, in other words, infinite games, we talked about that, finite games and infinite games, right? When we are in this infinite game, the authoritative leadership fails. But having said that, right, authoritative leadership does work in a corporate setting as well, producing a short-term results, which short-term companies employ all the time, right? And
interesting.
Yeah, it is
interesting. Now, do you have some examples, the corporate world, talking about that, where such leaders exist? Can you talk about these leaders and how exactly, do they actually follow just one set of leadership style all the way through?
No, actually, that it turns out that leaders like you would have heard about Steve Jobs, how He is very authoritative in his personal interaction. Anybody who comes in, interact with him one-on-one. But as a leader of the company, right? He produced, even the industry, I should say, he had a purpose or a vision which transformed the entire personal computing industry. The designs he made, the designs he inspired. He didn't really make a lot of them. He was inspiring all of that. He puts visions which are like, hey, we want to wake up in the morning, put a ding in the universe. He comes up with the vision and the purpose which is larger than what everybody thinks about.
Larger than life. Oh yeah.
Larger than life. And those leaders certainly produce the results, even though in their personal interaction they may come across, authoritative and in a smaller setting. But there's one classic example of this iPhone apps. Do you know when they first released the iPhone, there were no apps? I mean, that he was completely opposed to it, and he said, "No way," because one of the things he was obsessed about was that the phone needs to be simple. It cannot have too many complications. As soon as you let other people write apps to the phone, he thought that it will make it very, very hard to use, and people will lose that simplicity of using that phone. So he was very authoritative. And later on, he was able to listen to reason, because he's not authoritative for selfish reasons. He was like, so obsessed about creating a simple product, right? And people are able to see it. You know what I mean? He's authoritative, annoyingly authoritative in a personal interaction. But if you take a step back, right, you always say, okay, he was not doing it for himself. He was just doing it for the greater purpose or the larger vision, right? It's a funny balancing act when you deal with leaders like that.
It is true, Balaji. I've heard of something. I don't know if it is right or wrong, but I'm not even sure where I heard it from. As you say, good balance of authority and democracy is needed. So democracy when it comes to decision making, and authority when it comes to execution. That single focused mind to execute the decision that was taken, right? Something like that I've heard. So
I mean,
just wanted to share that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about the execution of the entire company as opposed to an individual, how they are able to influence others. The influencing from my own personal experience and the examples I've seen in the industry, the vision and the purpose and complete selfless dedication to the purpose exhibited by those leaders absolutely cause people to come to work every day and make a difference. Absolutely. People are willing to look beyond personal misgivings, so to say, for the larger purpose. And we see that over and over again. As long as the leader is committed to the cause beyond being selfless, right?
Yes, creating a win-win situation for all parties concerned, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we have nowadays, Elon Musk is another example of a visionary leader. He wants to go to Mars, so obsessed about that. And he continues to create innovations which will make us more efficient and much more, the whole electric car revolution and the whole electric and autonomous, and there are several innovation keeps coming out of Tesla and SpaceX. You can see that he's so obsessed. He works 100 hours, I don't know, 120 hours. I don't know how many hours he works. It cannot be because he's selfish. He's not, you know what I mean? Nobody is selfish that they work 120 hours a week, but they are so obsessed on their purpose. So people, right, obviously who work in those companies are inspired by those kind of leaders who are committed to their causes. That's what inspires them.
Absolutely, well said. And there were also some questions about the book that you had shared in your part one of
Mhm.
influence, and this was a book from Stephen Covey's, um, and it was called "The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People." So those were again, great influencers who were visionaries, and as you say, who worked, for a cause, really creating that the win-win situation for everyone involved. So I just wanted to share that at this point. Moving on, Balaji, sometimes we may have to lead a team without a proper title, a managerial title that gives us the authority, so to speak. Um, you know, so what do you do in such situations? You have to lead a team, and we all know in real life that when we don't have a title, people don't. It's difficult to get the task done or people to follow our instructions. So, are there other sources of authority you can leverage to inspire the fellow team members to follow your lead? What would
Oh,
that be?
absolutely. I mean, in fact, all the things we just talked about, all the people we talked about, they never led by authority in the sense of positional power. Martin Luther King did not have any position, nor did Mahatma Gandhi did, right? He was never a prime minister of India, president of India, but the entire country knew, everybody followed him, no matter what your title is. He was not the king of the British Empire. These leaders, they don't have titles. They inspire through who they are by example, and that completely applies in a corporate world. People follow people who they think that who are really working selflessly for the greater cause. And I had one of the managers used to tell me that he worked for Sun Microsystems. There was this one person who invented Java programming language, and everybody else, the teams won't follow the VP of engineering or SVP of engineering. They will follow this person who invented Java. They will say, if he says jump off the cliff, everybody would do it.
Right.
So you do not have
The
any
skills and
position. Yeah.
correct. Skills and knowledge, expertise in the subject goes. Do you think that helps as well in creating
Yeah,
that influence?
no purpose. Again, all those things are results. Results happen, but when a person is so purpose driven and so selfless about their own purpose, I think they create results along the way. Now the question is, oh, was Gandhi popular because he created he led people to freedom? That happened later, in fact, in life. That was not the reason why he was so people followed. In fact, nobody even recognized him for a Nobel Prize. And
That's right.
Nobel said that in a regret letter, that's the biggest mistake they ever made. So those are results, and they recognized after the fact. The people followed it way before any of that happens. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question about how do we influence people, the answer is exactly what we just talked about. Complete dedication to the cause and selflessness and humility, people will follow. That's my experience in my life.
That's absolutely true. I think it's definitely not authority, not title, not power, as you very rightly said. And certainly, it's time consuming for sure. For this to happen, and one needs to have a lot of patience and empathy, I guess, in this process. Whether it is creating influence through inspiration or control, wouldn't a person feel manipulated? Manipulation somehow, it's like it has a sinister um, tone to it. How do you see the fundamental differences?
Sorry to say the same answer again and again, but it also comes back to the same question. Is manipulation for selfish reasons? People feel cheated, right? And that's how people feel when there is an authoritative leadership and who's driving for selfish causes, right? and people feel cheated. They are manipulated, or they were forced to do something, and people resisted. People resisted either openly or passively, aggressively, and so on. So making sure our intention and our in the way we communicate and what we stand for our values really makes people feel willingly doing what they did, not because it was manipulated, because they willingly chose to be part of that cause, right? That's, as long as we create that as the leaders, I think we are doing a fantastic job of leading oneself, most importantly, and then obviously anybody who are following that cause.
Lovely. That intention matters, right? What drives the influence. So
Yep.
Going beyond the selfish cause and for the collective cause, where all parties obtain results they want. So that's wonderful what you're sharing, Balaji. So I think we've discussed enough on this topic, and hope it was useful to all watching and listening us today. Be aware that, we are always sending messages to others, even without words. Our feelings are being communicated through our thoughts, and the words we choose, the tone we use with other people in all areas of our life. So to become self-aware, mindful and heartful practices are always recommended to leaders, for a heartful leader for sure. So now in our Pearl webinars, we always offer Heartfulness Meditation. We welcome all to give it a try and see for yourself. So let's start this experiential process. It will last for about 5 minutes or so. So I welcome everybody to join me now. So sit comfortably, close your eyes. Let's begin with the toes. Wiggle your toes and feel them relax. Relax your ankles and feet. Feel the energy from the Mother Earth entering your legs, through your ankles, moving upwards, relaxing the calf muscles, knees, thighs, and hips. Now feel how both your legs are completely relaxed. Breathe in, breathe out, and relax. Now relax your seating area and stomach. Breathe in, breathe out, and relax. Now feel the energy in your back. From the top of your back to the bottom. Feel your entire back is relaxed. Breathe in, breathe out, and relax. Now relax your chest and shoulders. Feel your shoulders simply melting away. Now let the energy flow into your arms, relaxing the upper arms, lower arms, hands, all the way to the tip of the fingers. Now feel how both your arms are completely relaxed. Now relax your neck muscles. Release any tension you may be holding there. Now let the energy move upwards into your face, relaxing the jaw, mouth, nose, cheeks, earlobes, eyes, forehead, all the way to the top of the head. Now feel how your whole body is completely relaxed. Now gently draw your attention to the heart. Imagine a source of light that's already in your heart is illuminating and pulling your attention inwards. You have distracting thoughts. Gently brush them aside and treat them as passing clouds. Be very gentle with yourself and do not try to concentrate. Please remain still and quiet with your attention on the light in the heart for a couple more minutes until you hear me say that's all. That's all. You may gently open your eyes when you feel ready to do so. So we must have all heard that meditation does increase our awareness over a period of time. And if we observe, we will find that people with high self-awareness have more direction, purpose, and influence and success in their professional and personal lives. So anyways, if you would like to take this meditation further, the Heartfulness Meditation, you can get in touch with us at pearl@heartfulness.org, and we will get you connected with the trainer in your area or country. And to circle back, Balaji, as a closing remark, some of my takeaways from this webinar was that, from all you said, that the vision of the leader and working for a collective cause, where when a leader can create a win-win situation for everyone, such a person is really an effective leader and can create such great influence. And I know we talked in the previous session that trust was very fundamental to this, although we didn't touch upon that in this session. The other thing is that authority really, without influence is useless in some ways. So these were my takeaways from this session, and I'm sure each one of you must have had yours as well. And any closing remarks, Balaji?
No, I think you wonderfully summarized it. We look to our leaders to unite us, and we as leaders should aspire to elevate the humanity and human consciousness, where it unites everyone. And that's the Heartfulness message, and that's Daji's message as well. And that's what we should be aspiring to be in our personal life as well as our professional lives, how we can elevate the human consciousness to another level of unity.
Beautiful. Unity and harmony, right? It's
Yes.
Beautiful what you say. And I'm truly appreciative of the Heartfulness team and Balaji for continuing to be part of the Pearl journey. The series particularly was very well received by our audience, and we're truly grateful for that. Our team always strives. Sorry.
No, I said thank you for the opportunity. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And we always strive to add more value to our viewers and listeners. And we appreciate your comments, your feedbacks for us. So please, if you can spare some time and leave your comment below in the comments section, that'd be very, very helpful, actually. And our next webinar is exclusively for children. It's a puppet show for the festive times ahead. So this is actually from a famous puppeteer, Tim Gosley, who portrayed Basil, the polar bear at Sesame Street, a role which he, I think, performed for several years, 9 years, I believe. So details are on our website. Please go look at it and stay tuned for it. We look forward to seeing you then. So take care and enjoy your day.